Musée Wellington, so one love. That's what's on at the Musée Wellington in Waterloo. Sacré-Cœurs, Institute of Sacré-Cœurs. What that's all about. Right, we're here. I recognise those trees from when I was looking on the street view. And that's the big church, which is opposite the museum. Yeah. So the museum is just here on the right hand side. Healthy Cafe Lunch, where the flags are outside. Musée Wellington. Yeah, tea time. The Duke. Except he wasn't dressed like that. Keeps hearing aeroplanes going over. Must be on the flight path into Brussels airport. So it's a grand looking church, isn't it? It's open. Wonder if we can film inside. So this is the headquarters of the Duke of Wellington, 1815. Look at those for some gates. I love a good courtyard. There we are. We shall go in.
Stairs. On the evening of 17th of June, the Duke of Wellington climbed the stairs to withdraw to his room. Let's follow in his footsteps and go upstairs. Here we are in the room where I lost my life during the night of 18th to 19th of June, 1815. Following an injury to my knee during the fighting, my leg had to be amputated, but I did not survive. I was not only the Duke of Wellington's aide-de-camp, but also his friend. My death greatly saddened him.
So here we have the bed. In this bed on the evening of the battle died Honourable Sir Alexander Gordon, the Duke of Wellington's aide-de-camp. Gordon was seriously wounded in the thigh and his leg was apparently amputated on the spot by Dr. Hume before he was returned to the Borden Inn, this building. While Wellington was in the next room starting to write his report on the victory, Gordon lay dying. At about 3:30 in the morning, Dr. Hume could do no more than confirm his death and wake Wellington to announce that his aide-de-camp had just passed away. The doctor recalls that tears began to run down Wellington's cheeks. Deeply moved, the Duke said, "Well, thank God, I do not know what it is like to lose a battle, but certainly nothing can be more painful than to gain one with the loss of so many of one's friends. This is a letter Wellington wrote back to Gordon's brother. The sabre here was for an infantry officer in the British Army, and it belonged to Lord Gordon, along with its leather and brass sheath.
Weapons room. On display in this room are different weapons grouped according to the infantry, cavalry and artillery divisions of the belligerents at Waterloo. At the time, armies were made up of these three subdivisions. The display cases present interesting testimonies of the battle, such as a pierced French breastplate, a British Congreve rocket, or also a Prussian hat.
Looks like these might be on loan from the Royal Armouries in England. So this is one of the forerunners of mortar rockets. I think this was some sort of early rocket, which, well, they were at the Battle of the Waterloo, but apparently they were more psychological weapon than an effective, accurate weapon, and Wellington was known to distrust them. So this was a French Chasseur from a line regiment and a Prussian artilleryman's Chasseur.
The Napoleon room. Following defeat at Waterloo, Napoleon abdicated a second time and surrendered to the English. In August 1815, he was taken to the rocky island of St. Helena. On 17th of October, he landed on the island, which he would never leave. At Longwood, his residence, Napoleon divided his days into three parts: work, entertainment, and conversation. The days were dull, and boredom overcame him. In 1819, he was diagnosed with hepatitis, but refused to be treated by the English doctors. The seizures that Dr. Antomarchi could not treat became more and more violent. On 5th of May 1821, in the middle of the night, Napoleon passed away at approximately 5:50 p.m. The autopsy concluded that the cause was a cancerous stomach ulcer. His body was then dressed in the uniform of the mounted chasseurs of the Imperial Guard and placed on the coat worn at the Battle of Marengo on his deathbed. On 7th of May, one of the doctors, Dr. Antomarchi, created a death mask. His funeral took place on 9th of May.
This is the death mask of Napoleon. So they were actually created on the body. Josephine, the King of Rome. This is a flag of the Morbihan National Guard, flag given to the Morbihan National Guard during the ceremony on the Champ de Mai, 1st of June 1815. Emperor Napoleon.
The Duke of Wellington room. My friend, Arthur Wellesley, fought the battle that went on to change his destiny and that of Europe. Following the battle that he had just won, the Duke of Wellington met Field Marshal Blucher. Then, at approximately 9:45 p.m., he headed to his headquarters in Waterloo. He crossed the horrible battlefield dotted with the dead and the dying. Devastated by this sad sight, he declared, "My lord, nothing except a battle lost can be half so melancholy as a battle won. My lord, make it my last battle." Shortly before 11 p.m., he returned here, exhausted by the 17 hours he had just spent on his horse, and asked for a message to be sent to King Louis XVIII, who was still in Ghent, informing him of victory. The Duke of Wellington ate a simple meal and declared, "The hand of the Almighty was always upon me during this day," then sadly raised his glass and said, "To the memory of the Peninsular War." After having finally managed to fall asleep, Arthur woke at 3 o'clock in the morning. In the room next door, I had just died from my wounds. Wellington burst into tears and said to the doctor who had tried to save me, "With such losses, how do you expect me to feel any joy from my victory?" Unable to go back to sleep, the Duke of Wellington washed, shaved, changed his uniform, and started his report to the British government on his campaign table in the middle of the room. The report started with the following wording: Waterloo, 19th of June, 1815. The name of Waterloo then spread throughout the world. At 5:30 a.m., Wellington left the inn and travelled to Brussels, where he was acclaimed by the crowds. Wellington's life room. Here we are in the room telling us about the Duke of Wellington's life after the Battle of Waterloo. In defeat, France was condemned to pay a war debt. Its territory was occupied by the Allied troops. The visionary Duke of Wellington noticed the rise of Prussian, Russian, and Austrian nationalism, and to avoid a conflict, following 3 years of occupation, he ordered the Allied troops from France and reduced the war debt. By way of thanks, King Louis XVIII offered him a 247-piece service made of Sèvres porcelain, 2 items of which are presented in the display case, the blue and gold plates with castle landscape decorations. The Duke of Wellington, made Prince of Waterloo by the Dutch king, devoted himself to politics and became the Prime Minister of his country. In 1829, he was appointed Lord Warden of the Cinque Ports, with a residence at Walmer Castle, where he spent most of his time, surrounded by his children and grandchildren, following the death of his wife in 1832. On the European front, Wellington continued to play a leading role in peacekeeping. He rubbed shoulders with the great and good of Europe and witnessed, with regret, the independence of Belgium, of which he was so fond, but the good relations he maintained with Leopold and the Belgian king's wedding with Louise, daughter of Louis-Philippe of Orléans, delighted him. He recognized that the King of the Belgians was himself in favor of peace, and thus expressed his full confidence in this young state. After 1846, Wellington withdrew somewhat from politics, but retained an advisory presence to the government and royal family. The Duke of Wellington died in 1852 in his residence at Walmer, 31 years after Napoleon. Queen Victoria ordered the organisation of a state funeral, which took place on 18th of November at St. Paul's Cathedral, where the Duke lies in peace next to Admiral Nelson. The Blucher Room. Prince Blucher von Wahlstatt commanded the Prussian troops fighting against Napoleon. He was a headstrong but tenacious soldier, adored by his men. They nicknamed him Marshal Forward. Blucher fought Napoleon's troops many times between 1806 and 1814. Despite his advanced years, aged 73, he followed the grueling pace of the 1815 campaign on horseback. Although he was injured at Ligny 2 days beforehand, he nonetheless took the head of his army at Waterloo. The Battle of Waterloo was the finest success of his career, which he owed to his intelligent collaboration with Wellington, something that was uncommon at the time. Blücher died 4 years later, in 1890.
This is Blücher receiving Napoleon's captured medals, hat and a sword near Gennep. So a lanyard of an officer in the Queen's Dragoons, Prussia, found on the battlefield at Waterloo. It belonged to a Prussian officer in the Queen's Dragoon Regiment, von Zieten's corps. That there is a stamp with the Emperor's gold seal, which was found in his carriage at Gennep by Major Keller after the Battle of Waterloo and given to Marshal Nassau, Blücher's Chief of Staff. This is Blücher. King and Queen at Blücher's bedside. Maybe that's when he was dying. And this is the meeting near La Belle Alliance, the meeting of Wellington and Blücher after the Battle of Waterloo. So this is a commemorative plaque that was formerly positioned above the door of La Belle Alliance Inn.
He lost a leg at the end of the battle. His leg was amputated above the knee, and he showed remarkable courage during this painful operation. Perhaps he had some opium at his disposal. He was a rich man and was able to have an artificial leg made. This prosthesis is displayed here, opened up, to demonstrate the ingenuity of the craftspeople of the time.
So that's the Waterloo Tourist Information Office. I'm going to go in this church here now. Have a look in there. I think there's some connection to the battle. So this is a civic memorial signifying a wheat sheaf. The sheaf rises from a sown grain. This sculpture was created by the Waterloo artist Philippe Denis. It symbolises a wheat sheaf being reborn from the soils of Yser and Lys, the sands of the Salonelles, Normandy, and the ashes of Dachau, all contained in different urns buried beneath it. It was inaugurated in 1976. Église Saint Joseph. The Chapel Royal was erected in 1690 according to the wishes of the Governor of Belgium, which was South Spanish Netherlands. So for last look there, Wellington Museum headquarters. In the town of Waterloo.